dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Andrew back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. We're continuing our conversation with longtime host of this here radio show and Liberty Nation senior political analyst, Tim Donner. Tim, earlier in the show, we were talking about Josh Shapiro's, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's potential run for the White House, his possibilities, some issues he might face. And I think that brings us nicely on to another potential Democrat candidate for 2028. Being Andy Beshear of Kentucky. Now, he has the advantage of being a Democrat in a very deep red state. And so he's learned to navigate between the parties, or he has a foot in both worlds, as the movie says. What's your take on Mr. Beshear, Governor Beshear?
Well, I think if you look at his presence in the media in recent weeks, or more generally since the election, he's starting to come out and make statements. He's starting to attack Trump. He's starting to take stands against the Trump administration. He's more critical. So at the very least, it seems that Andy Beshear is keeping alive his name in the media and his potential to run for the White House. I think smart Democrats will go to him and say, please run. Because I would think even the far left, the AOCs and Bernie Sanders, would appreciate the fact that even though he's way to the right of them, because nobody could be further to the left than the squad, that if he can win, they will rally around him. I mean, that's what a political party is for. To rally around a single person, even though he's not going to satisfy everybody or sometimes even anybody. But he can take a position that is popular directly with the American people. I think that Beshear would be wise to consider this, because he could potentially be the Bill Clinton of 2028, or the Jimmy Carter. I hesitate to say that because of course, Carter was a failed presidency. But the point is that Carter and Clinton were guys that brought the party back to sanity, back to the center. So I'd be surprised, honestly, Mark, if Andy Beshear didn't make a run at it. But I say that without knowing his own personal ambitions, because running for president is an enormously complicated, exhausting, and expensive proposition. It's a nationwide campaign, which is very different than campaigning in one state like Kentucky. So I don't know what's in his head, but on paper, he stands along with Shapiro as the two most attractive candidates, with the possible exception of Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, who has sort of worked the center pretty well. She's appeared with Trump when he went to Michigan, and she's trying to sound more sort of centrist these days. And I think it's pretty clear she's got presidential ambitions based on her statements and her appearances, her activity.
I think she will be suffering from that. Obviously, we all remember the photo of Michael Dukakis with the oversized helmet on his head. That sunk his career, essentially. But there's Gretchen Whitmer trying to hide behind a folder. She's covering her face with it in a room full of reporters.
But I have to say, though, Mark, I kind of buy, believe it or not, I kind of buy her explanation that she was having fun with it. Like, oh, I can't be seen by other Democrats in the White House. Because, come on, it's not like nobody's going to know she's there.
Sure.
I mean, and she's making a point of doing it so that she can get some attention and sort of playfully act like, oh, I can't be seen with Donald Trump. I actually, believe it or not, Mark, I believe her.
Yeah. All right. Let's just quickly, something else about Andy Beshear is that he was in South Carolina recently as well, as was another candidate potential candidate we may talk about, Gavin Newsom. and it's almost become the pilgrimage now. The visits to South Carolina to get the blessings. And I wonder if you could shed some light on this. So it seems to me that presidential candidates, they want to go to South Carolina and get the blessing of Jim Clyburn, Representative Jim Clyburn, as if he has the power to anoint the successor to Joe Biden, and every other Democratic president. But he's now occupying, for some reason, this almost mythological space that, for a long time, Al Sharpton, well-known grifter, Al Sharpton, and somebody who can't spell the word respect. Al Sharpton.
I thought it was respect.
You notice I say that 3 times. The Al Sharpton. Anyway, that's for those who have watched Reverend Sharpton's career. But so now they seem to be doing the same way. So it used to be they'd go to Al Sharpton and get his blessing before launching the presidential bids. Now they seem to be going to South Carolina and Jim Clyburn. And I'm not convinced that that's really a worthwhile thing. It's symbolic, but without any actual practical value. Or do I have that wrong?
Well, I think what's happened is that the Democrats, and even to some extent the Republicans, over these last several cycles, have found that Iowa and New Hampshire are not as important as they thought. Joe Biden got clobbered in both places in 2020. And then he went to South Carolina and his campaign revived. Of course, it was helpful that the Democratic Party essentially shoved every other centrist candidate out the door and said, get lost. Biden's our guy. So in that sense, what happened recently is what people usually take to be the new normal, which is that if you go to South Carolina, you appeal to the Black audience there, which is a precursor to winning the Black vote in the general election. That's the most important primary, because if you win that, you take the momentum into Super Tuesday, which usually has anywhere from 10 to 15 different primaries. And, the problem is that, Joe Biden, for whatever reason, was pretty popular among Black Americans when he was elected, not so much after he was elected. But I don't see any of these candidates that we've discussed, from Gavin Newsom to Andy Beshear to Josh Shapiro to Gretchen Whitmer. I don't see any of them having a particular appeal to Black people. And so I guess because of that, they want to go to South Carolina to say that they're a friend of the Black man and the Black woman, unlike these other pretenders to the throne.
It's almost a trope, isn't it? It's like, I can't be a racist because I have a Black friend. His name's Jim Clyburn of South Carolina.
Some of my best friends are Black, right? Yes.
But people seem to forget that, America doesn't have kings, and Jim Clyburn is not the king of South Carolina, much as he may wish it.
I for one, was very grateful for the No Kings movement. And the Democrats, because up to that point, I thought that we did have kings.
Yeah, I know.
So they helped set the record straight. That was very helpful.
But we can say it was the most successful protest movement in the history of the nation, because they set out on day one and said no kings, and then the next day there were no kings.
We had no king. It worked. It worked.
100%
one of the most successful political movements of all time, Mark.
Just finally, Tim, to wrap up, we've devoted a lot of attention to the Democrats. We've only briefly touched on the Republicans, but I want to make, and it's not a prediction, but it's something to watch. I suspect that whoever claims the Republican nomination in 2028 will have on their ticket Byron Donalds. What do you think?
I think it makes a lot of sense because it plays into the growing support for Trump, at least, if not the Republican Party. Byron Donalds is a real guy. I mean, he's a guy you would love to sit and have a beer with. And I know that because I've had friends that did have sit down and have a beer with him. And he's very personable. And it plays into the Republican attempt to steal the black vote along with the Hispanic vote away from the Democrats. And right now, I think they're still headed in that direction. The Democrats have done almost nothing to appeal to black Americans since Donald Trump was elected. And they're aware of it. And I think this idea of reflexively and automatically pulling the lever with a guy with a D next to his name may be coming to an end among black Americans.
Let's see what happens. It's a couple of years out, but Tim, thanks ever so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
A lot of fun, Mark. Thanks.
And that is just about all we have time for on this week's edition of Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I've been your host, Mark Angelides. I'd like to thank our guests for today, Liberty Nation's enterprise reporter, Joe Schaefer, and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner. And of course, thank you, the listeners at home, who take the time each week to tune in and join us. You are appreciated. Please do remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.